Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In podcast. This Saturday, going down early in the morning, we got UFC Singapore. It's headlined by a fight in the featherweight division between former champion Max Holloway and the legend Korean Zombie. In the co-main event, it's a rematch at 205 between Anthony Lionheart-Smith and Ryan Spann. Brings us to a total of 13 fights going down this weekend. As always, do us a quick favor, like the video, sub to the channel if you haven't before. Going forward, trying out a new format, a little bit more casual, a little bit more opinionated, a lot easier for us. So I hope you guys like that. As far as last week goes, UFC 292, always want to be transparent there. We got a new bantamweight champion of the world, man, and kicking myself for not betting Sean. You told me it was going to hit. If I didn't bet it, stayed off, and what do you know, man? Glad he's the champ. Glad Aljo is not the champ. Let you quickly recap how we finished up before we jump into this week.
Yeah, so a mixed bag of results this week. We'll take a look over at your card first. You hit the fight doesn't go the distance early. We actually both did at minus 130 for the main event. Rather than picking a side, you knew both guys had finishing upside. Mm-hmm. I think that was definitely some of the best, one of the best spots on your card. Another great spot was the Moreau-Silva fight at plus money under 2.5 rounds. They had already finished the first time that they fought. Both girls had finishing upside. And you ended up having a really good card at plus 4.67 units. Definitely a good night. Looking over at my card, man, it was tough. My best bet of the night was Weili Zhang. She looked dominant. I talked about trying to double down and never ended up getting there. And I think my biggest miss on the card was the Zhang by submission at plus 450. She definitely got it to the mat as easily as I thought that she would.
Right.
Just was more focused on controlling and damage whenever she did get it to the mat. Just wasn't there. That would have changed the night around pretty significantly. I ended up minus 2.53 units with both my dogs missing. Is what it is, and definitely something that we can come back from.
Yeah.
Looking at the start of the card, first fight on the prelim, Seung Choi versus Jarno Errens at featherweight. This is actually the only bet that I have placed so far. I'm in on Jarno Errens. I think that his judo is going to be enough to stop the takedown threat of Choi. And if it's standing on the feet, I think it's a 50-50 fight. The way that Choi's been handling punches recently does not look good. And I think Jarno Errens in this coin flip of a fight at plus 170 is a great look.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think it's a 50-50 fight in terms of skill on the feet. I think the Korean Muay Thai champion, Seung Choi, he has some of the sharper striking, but you touched on the point of him just not reacting to shots well. And it's pretty tricky that's where your advantages lie in the fight, you know. When I look at Errens' questionable level of competition, that kind of talks me off a little bit. But I do think the line is potentially wide, and in terms of value, I do think you're on the right side. Moving down to the women's flyweights, we got Liang taking on JJ Aldrich. Liang opened like plus 700. She can still be had for like plus 400, and I don't know if I track it, but like DGen $20, man, I think it's worth a shot, to be honest with you. You know, we see just wide women's MMA lines all the time. She's a very potent finisher, looking to get the fight down to the mat. And then you've got Aldrich, who's coming off of dropping the ball as a minus like 300 favorite. And so it's really hard to want to back her in any spot going forward. I think the value's on the underdog. But I think JJ is the superior fighter here, and we'll likely get her out of there in the second or third round.
I definitely don't like JJ at 5-1 against anybody. I think if you are going to take the dog here, you take Liang inside the distance, maybe the early round props. I think that's her only path to victory here. JJ was able to keep the fight standing against Erin Blanchfield, and I think that she's as good of a wrestler as Liang. So, I think that this is JJ's fight, although I would never pay that price tag.
Yep.
Moving up to the welterweight division, Yusaku Kinoshita taking on Billy Goff. It's a really tough fight. Both guys explosive. And, as far as I'm concerned, I like the way that Goff fights whenever he is in problem area or whenever he does get caught. The way that he can just jump back into it, recover, and still put together a technical game plan after that is definitely appealing. So, I'm just not too high on Japanese fighters unless their last name is Taira, So I'm on the Goff side here.
First disagreement of the night and my first bet of the night. I do have 1.5 units on Kinoshita at minus 165, a number that I didn't expect to come down. I actually double dipped here because I have under 2.5 parlayed as well. If pretty sure on the feet, Kinoshita to me, man, a lot more technical, a lot better with the footwork, the movement. I think he's going to touch up Billy Goff, and I do think he's going to put Goff away. But Goff has that dog in him. He kind of doesn't start to fight until he gets hit, and I guess I see people this week saying it just must be something with the Billies because he fights like Billy Q, he fights like Bill Algeo, and at least you're getting plus money if you want to back the guy because I do think in a lot of scenarios he loses the fight early on and has to come back. I think there's an excellent live betting opportunity on Billy Goff this weekend, but pre-flop, I'm on the Yusaku Kinoshita side. Then we stay at 170 for Kenan Seung taking on Rolando Bedoya. Second bet of the night here. I got 2 units on Bedoya. As opposed to parlaying him, I just put 2 units on him straight at minus 250. I really like what I see from the 26-year-old shoot box, Diego Lima trained. Chin from hell, great volume, very accurate right hand, and he has plenty of ways to set it up. And I just think these guys are in 2 different points of their career at the present moment. I haven't liked what I've seen from Kenan Seung. He's got big power, but he doesn't really seem to be able to take it at this point in his career. 7-year age gap, back-to-back TKO losses. I like Rolando Bedoya to get him out of there and win his first UFC fight.
I'm also on Bedoya as well. I wish that he had, a path via grappling. But I don't know if that's there. And with Song having the power that he does on the feet, it's a little concerning. No, we haven't seen Bedoya show any issues as far as his chin. But I do wish that there was another path for him there. While it's on the feet, it can be a little bit tricky. And at 170 pounds, who knows? I need to see him get a win over UFC talent before I start backing him in juiced positions. Bedoya is the pick for me, though. Moving up to the middleweight division, Chidi and Njokuani versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. I think Chidi really benefits whenever he's fighting chinny fighters, and Michal isn't really one of those, in my opinion. He eats damage really, really well, and I think that will, once he eats some of Chidi's best shots and he starts putting on the forward pressure, Chidi fighting off of his back foot, I think is going to have issues against somebody like Michal. So I'm actually on the Michal Oleksiejczuk side here.
Yeah, can't disagree with you. I come out on the Michal Oleksiejczuk side. I'm looking at maybe parlaying or just playing straight the under 2.5. I really like violence here. Chidi's one of those guys. He's hard to get your range on early. Chidi, in my opinion, his finishing upside is very early when you don't gauge the range on him. I think he kind of breaks down and almost quits later on in the fights. Oleksiejczuk is absolute hell on wheels in round 1, and I expect him to get after Chidi early here, work the body, work those boxing combinations, and I do think we see a first-round finish between these guys. I'm going to go Michal Oleksiejczuk to get that finish. And then to the men's bantamweight division, Tashiomi Kazama taking on Garret Armfield. Both of these guys, in my opinion, have questionable level of competition. And with Kazama, we saw, on his road to the UFC, one guy missed weight, so he didn't even get to fight. And then Nakamura sparks him in like 30 seconds. He's got good submission upside, and Garret Armfield likes to wrestle, and I think that could be to his demise. 16 of their 19 finishes have hit the under 1.5. They've only been over 5 times in their combined 24 fights. And so the under 2.5 is actually something that I'm considering here rather than looking at a side.
Who is your pick, though?
I'm going to go Garret Armfield. No real conviction, though, honestly.
Yeah, I don't think I have a great read on this fight either. I will go Armfield again. It's like the Japanese fighters, they haven't really they don't do much for me right now. So I'll pick the American with the wrestling, and Garret Armfield, yeah, I'll pick him. I think he's a dog, correct?
I think he's a favorite now.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, he sure is. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not betting him either, but I'll pick Garret Armfield. Moving up to the heavyweight division, Waldo, Cortes, Acosta taking on Lukasz, Brzeski. I don't have much faith in Brzeski, although he did look a little better in his last performance. Waldo, Cortes, Acosta, he's one of these guys where I feel like he has some pretty obvious holes in his game, but he uses them to his advantage. He just kind of leaves that lead leg out there to kind of get his offense going. It kind of baits his opponents into it. So Cortes, he's a big dude. He's a true heavyweight, and I think that he'll probably get this done. I'm not betting him though, and I don't like betting any middling heavyweight at over 2-1 odds.
I'm with you. Waldo's the side that I come out on. He reminds me, before Jamal Pogue showed up at 265 pounds, he kind of reminds me of like a Jamal Pogues. Like there's not a lot of finishing upside there, but he can kind of just be the better athlete in the fight, throw the more volume out there. And so Brzeski at 0-2 in the UFC, I believe he's already been popped by USADA and stuff as well. And yeah, man, it's easy pick for me on Acosta, I think, but will not have any type of action on that fight at all. Then we stay in the heavyweight division, back-to-back big boys. We got Junior Tafa and Parker Porter. I hate the 4-1 record of Junior Tafa, but I don't know if Parker Porter is going to have the ability to get him down to the mat. Man, early on the feet, I think the length and speed of Junior Tafa honestly could cause some issues. I seen Parker Porter interview talking about 22 hours worth of plane flights to get over to Singapore. Junior Tafa is a bet that's kind of staring me in the face this week, man. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's like I wish I could bet Parker Porter here. I just don't like his wrestling entries. I don't know if he is going to get it to the mat. I don't really know, I can't really see how he's going to do it without putting himself in like severe danger with Junior Tafa. Yeah. That being said, I know in a couple of Porter's past fights, there was kind of like a hipster bet of Porter by submission. And this is the first fight where I do feel like that's an actual possibility. If he is able to get the fight to the mat, seemingly his only path to victory, because him standing on the feet for 15 minutes doesn't sound very great. But if he is able to get the fight to the mat, I do think that he'll hold a significant grappling advantage. And, the submission prop, I don't know what it sits at. I haven't looked at that, but I imagine that it's a pretty good number for a heavyweight.
Yeah,
so
I imagine so.
That being said, I still think it happens less than 20% of the time. So Junior Tafa will be the pick for me. Moving all the way down to the women's flyweight division, Erin Blanchfield versus Taila Santos. I've actually unsuccessfully tried to fade Blanchfield 3 times in a row now. And I don't know what to do, man. Taila Santos seems like she's really good everywhere. She doesn't have holes like the last few girls that Blanchfield has faced that I've tried to fade her with. And she's really athletic, and it's like Blanchfield's still really young. And yeah, I'm going Taila Santos. I'm a glutton for punishment, so I wouldn't be surprised if I look into this a little bit further and end up on her side come fight time.
Best fight on the card, in my opinion. Absolutely, could be the main event. Could have been in a pay-per-view last week. This is likely the number one contender fight for, who's going to fight Valentina or Grasso after next month. I don't know how, after watching tape, you could very passionately come out on a side or be willing to lay the juice on Blanchfield, because I think it's a coin flip, man. I don't see one of these girls winning the fight more than 55 times out of 100. I truly consider it a 50-50 fight. I think Taila Santos might have the better top game, better ability to get the fight to the mat. Erin shown me some sneaky boxing for the time that it has been on the feet. But when I see a fight that's just this closely aligned, when I see the over 2.5 lined at -280, potentially a lot of grappling involved, you want the dog there, in my opinion. And so if you want to know where I think the value lies, it's on Taila Santos. I don't have the most confident pick, man, but I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to pick Taila Santos.
I think in Blanchfield's paths to victory, they all surround her getting the fight to the mat, and I think Taila can stop that 50% of the time or more. Yeah, I don't know. It's I think if it's on the feet, Taila is the more athletic, better striker, and
There's that one fight of Talia's debut, that she drops to like Mara Barella or something, and she does kind of get controlled on the mat in that fight, but almost like Ian Gary getting touched up by Jordan Williams. Like I give people debut passes, I think if that fight's ran back right now is Talia Santos minus 700 favorite or something, and oh man, this is a tricky fight for me. I do think it's the best fight on the card. One of the ones I'm more interested in seeing. I think we got the right side in Talia Santos though, man. And then moving on up, Rinya Nakamura versus Fernie Garcia. This is a Japanese prospect to get excited about outside of Tatsuro Taira. I think Nakamura has potential to be legit. He's got the Olympic level wrestling in the back pocket. He's training with the best coaches, the best guys at an American top team, and he's not afraid to get in your face and let his hands go. But he does give me some defensive worries as he climbs the rank that someone might be able to catch him. But this dude is fast. This dude has all the tools to win this fight against Fernie Garcia, and I think he gets Fernie out of there in round one. Man, think anything different?
No, I think that he should win this fight. I am curious to see him against non-Asian fighters. Like,
yeah,
that sounds a little bit weird, but there's always been a skill gap whenever Asian fighters come to the UFC. And, Fernie Garcia is somebody who has a sneaky submission game. He has paths to victory by finish and just
never been finished either.
Never been finished, and he is he lives and breathes underdog status, like plus 550 for a finisher in Fernie Garcia against somebody who's never faced anybody and anybody outside of the Asian regional scene is kind of tempting. So I don't know. I would not be surprised if this minus whatever 800 Japanese fighter shits the bed on Saturday. I really don't, or really wouldn't be. Moving on to my favorite fight of the card, Giga Chikadze versus Alex Caceres. I know Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard were grinning making this fight, man. Yeah. This is just a perfect stylistic matchup. It's kind of a changing of the guard fight in the sense that if Giga cannot beat Caceres here, he was never as good as people thought he was. This is kind of a perfect matchup for Giga to kind of prove that he is much further along in his striking than somebody who's shown that he's kind of been a journeyman or I guess journeyman's fair at this point, his entire career in Alex Caceres. Caceres has looked great recently, but he is kind of getting up there in age and fight miles. And when you got double-digit losses on your career, you can only be so good, Giga needs this fight, and it's a really, really good matchup for him. But I think it's way closer than what are the odds at right now?
I think Giga's north of minus 200.
Yeah, so he's minus 240s. I think Caceres is the value spot here. I'd like to play Caceres because there's no Giga doesn't have a wrestling path. It's on the feet, and I feel like Caceres on the feet can hang with anybody at 145 pounds. So getting him at a 2-1 dog, it sounds pretty good. I'll pick him as my pick.
Yeah, I think he's walking into his 29th UFC fight. Absolute veteran, but he's just like you said, journeyman, always been that fringe top 20, top 25 guy. And so you're right, man. If Giga, after a year and a half off to improve in just a 3-round fight here, if he doesn't come out on top, you're right. He's not as good as we ever thought he was. I think Caceres, his path to victories involve later in the fight. Maybe he takes the early barrage and comes back with a submission or something in round 3. It's I know he just lost to Cater, but it is hard for me to favor somebody in a standing fight with Giga over 3 rounds. I'm going to side with Giga Chikadze, but let it be known, I do agree Alex Caceres being the clear value side here. And co-main event at 205, Anthony Smith, Ryan Spann. A rematch of a not-so-competitive fight the first time around at all. Lionheart puts him out in round 1 with a submission after hurting him on the feet. But at 60 fights now or something for Lionheart, over 50 fights, the guy's on a 3-fight losing streak or something, I think, and he looks bad, man. Lionheart is looking career worst, and I think the athleticism and the power of somebody like Ryan Spann, if it lands, at this point for Anthony, it could be the breaking point, but I'm not sold on Ryan Spann's chin whatsoever. This guy's come in and missed weight as well before. He's just a mental head case. Anthony Smith at plus money after the way they fought the first time is very, very tempting to me. But I think I'm more inclined to look at the under 1.5 here. It's minus 175. The last 6 fights for Ryan Spann have ended in the first round. Nothing's changing for these guys who are like 35 years old. I think we see probably another first round finish on Saturday.
Yeah, the under is my favorite spot in this fight. I don't know. Smith doesn't react well to anything anymore. And I think that if he doesn't get the fight going his way as soon as it starts, he'll probably give up. Career trajectory-wise, Ryan Spann's really turned his stuff around as of late, and Anthony Smith has not. So I will be going with Ryan Spann. I think that he's the side here. Although I understand, I mean, having Anthony Smith as a dog when he's already won once, I totally get it. Moving on to the main event, I was trying to think of what I could add to this that anybody who's watched any breakdown hasn't already heard. And the only thing I've got is that I think that this is the first fight in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fights of Max's last ones that he's going to get a finish. You know, Korean Zombie is somebody who's notoriously durable, but as he ages, as he reacts to punches since he's been aging, it's not looking that great. And Max Holloway, like, dude, my mouth salivates thinking about the minus 170 price tag I was able to get on Arnold Allen last time out. Max still freaking has it, dude. Like he's absolutely got it. And this is a significant step down in competition from Alexander Volkanovski, Arnold Allen, even at this point. And I just think that this is a perfect opportunity to snag a somewhat low price tag on Max Holloway inside the distance. I haven't looked at it, but it's looking like minus 140. And I think that that's value on the minus 1,000 on FanDuel right now.
I was quite shocked, to be honest with you, that these guys have never been scheduled to fight or anything. They're both absolute veterans of the featherweight division. And, Max is like the number one. It's always tricky with Volk being the champion, but Max sitting at the number one, contender, he's fighting quite a ways back in the ranking. So I went to look at it, and Emmett and Taporia were just matched up and just fought. Max Holloway has beaten everybody else in the top 10. So it's like, this was just pretty much the only one left. And for a fight night that is catered to like the Asian population and kind of built around the Korean Zombie, they're doing him no favors, man. I just don't know what he offers Max. Max has never even been dropped, so it's hard to say that the Zombie can knock him out at all. And that's really his only path to victory is his boxing, because I don't think he can wrestle him. He can't outpace him. He can't outvolume him. Max is the clear pick for me. I see everybody hitting the over 2.5, and I think that's the point where shit starts to get a little dicey. About that point, I think Max could put the pressure and the pace on him. The Koreans, Volkanovski is the shorter, featherweight, so he's fast, but the Korean Zombie looked slow last time out. He could not get out of the way of anything from Volkanovski, and if Max is putting that pressure and pace on him, minus 140 could be a treat. I like Max Holloway again, just like yourself, to get it done this weekend. Anything you want to add?
No, I like the new podcast format. We're under 25 minutes. We covered
25 minutes.
Pretty good.
Yeah, 25 minutes recap last week. Gave our opinion on all 13 fights here. Keep an eye on Twitter. We're always releasing bets throughout the week. The final card will be released on Saturday. Hope you guys like the new format. We'll see you next week.
Peace.